My mom joined a book club probably 15 years ago now, maybe. And so she explains this book club, and the first book they're reading, I don't know, it was terrible. I don't even know what it was. The second one was it gets even worse. And I realized that my mom's book club is basically the textbook example of a term you've never heard of, but it's actually important for organizations, called group polarization theory, which simply means that you start with something that's distinctive. And so for my mom's book club, what was distinctive is that they were eccentric, educated women. And so from this point of distinction, then they become extreme. And so they start picking more and more eccentric books. In other words, books that eccentric, educated women would pick. And so the book club keeps drifting off in this lane of becoming more and more extreme for being eccentric. And then all the predictable things happen. They try to out-eccentric each other with their book picks, so the books get worse and worse. And so people come occasionally to this book club as guests to potentially join, and they're basically like, hey, you know, this book that y'all picked, okay, it's kind of, I think they would use the word esoteric. Maybe could we pick a book that's a little less weird next time? And they get the stink eye, and they get the, you know, basically a good shunning. And so they don't come back. And so over the years that we've been watching this, my mom's, you know, for a variety of reasons, people move out of town, and they're an in-person book club. And some of these folks are older, and they're taking care of their significant others, and they can no longer make it. But her book club is down from like 15 people to 2. And it is because they're now so eccentric and extreme that nobody wants to be a part of this book club. I pray to God that my mom is not watching this episode. But that happens in organizations all the time. We work in dozens of fire departments. And to a fire department on the outside, everybody looks the same. They're all on the truck. They're all on the shiny truck going to the wherever. But inside, fire departments run 3 shifts, usually. Basically, they call it A, B, and C, but like a day 1, day 2, day 3. And then however big your city is,
you've got stations.
Yeah. And so in a medium-sized city, let's say there's 7 stations. So then it's 7 stations times 3 shifts. That's 21 different crews you need. And each of those crews thinks that they're very different. And so this one crew, they're the jocks. And this other crew, they're the blue-collar, we're the blue-collar firemen. And this other crew, we're the smart ones or whatever. And then that little crew over time gets jockier and jockier, or more blue-collar, or more and more we're the nerds, whatever. And it gets to the point where not only does anybody who enter there, it's very hard for them to fit because they've gone so far down that rabbit hole. But the further the group goes in embracing and making extreme, the thing that originally started was distinctive. We're athletes. We like to work out. We're nerds. We like to stay on top of the latest and greatest in fire science. Or we're the other one was? The blue collar. We like to just go, you know, like, what do they say? They say, we like to put the wet stuff on the red stuff or whatever. And the groups
I'm
become—
not sure what that means.
The wet stuff. We put the water on the red stuff. You never heard them say that?
No, I've never heard them say that.
We put the wet stuff on the red stuff.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, the wet stuff on the red stuff. And so these groups, as they become more extreme, not only is it hard to have people enter there and fit in, but they go down this rabbit hole. And the more you do that, the more everybody else seems weird. It's only us. Everybody else isn't like us. Well, there's reason. You've done 3 iterations, and now you're weird on the nerd side. And now you're weird on the working out side. You're real extreme is another way of saying it. Or you're really extreme on being a blue-collar fire department, and it doesn't fit the rest. And so you have these trucks going down the road, and everybody on the outside thinks, well, they're the same. This is my fire department. But on the inside, there can be these battles between these parts of the department, all doing different things. And that's leads to a much harder organization to manage, and typically also leads to more errors and a decrease in performance. And we'll talk about all the reasons for that. But that's all. It's a goofy scientific word that nobody's ever heard of. But every time we bring it up and explain it, group polarization theory, the group started with something distinctive and then it becomes extreme, then it's hard to fit the group, and then they think everybody else in the company is weird.
Right.
People go, oh.
Which makes it really hard, especially in like a fire department where, you're not always on with your crew. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time, but Stanley McChrystal wrote a book called Team of Teams. And I'm simplifying, but basically Stanley McChrystal arrives in Afghanistan, I believe it is, and he's trying to bring everybody together. And at the time, he had every asset in the American military's disposal. He had the SEALs, he had the Rangers, he had the Air Force Search and Rescue, he had the Marine Corps Force Recon. So he had all these special forces. And again, same as with the discussion we just had about fire departments. To somebody not embedded in those organizations, they all seem the same. They all look like, they're kind of physically fit and they all love the country and blah, blah, blah. But
every group will find a way to be distinctive.
McChrystal arrives on the scene and the SEALs won't work with the Rangers and the Rangers won't work with the Marines. And the Marines won't work with with the Air Force. And McChrystal's like, this is insane. Like, we need to be working together as one team. And he forces them with his, being the highest ranked guy, he could do this. He's like, all right, this group's going to be 1, 2, 3, like Marine, Ranger, SEAL, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You're going to go out tonight as a group. You're going to go out. You're going to, no, we can't do that. It's going to be dangerous, this and that. It's like, tough, you're doing it. And it took him forcing them to work together to help break down some of those bonds. And as his book goes on, this Team of Teams, the group actually got a lot better. But his book is describing him walking back those extreme positions that the teams had. Nobody would ever say any of those groups weren't high performers, but they could have been much better. And we see and McChrystal had that insight. And we see that all the time of groups that have stayed together a little bit too long. Their views have become a little extreme. Whatever was distinctive has become extreme to the negative. And it's very hard for other people to fit in. And it's very easy for that group to think the rest of the organization doesn't understand them, isn't like them.
So I think we have to take one step back and just be like, why do we place so much importance on groups, and why we even get into the position of like polarizing? And so, Marilyn Brewer recognized that groups are powerful because they're a unique vehicle in which we can basically satisfy two opposing needs: the need to belong and the need to be distinct. And so by joining a group, you get the belonging, but you get the distinctiveness because the group is distinctive against other groups. And so embedded in that is basically a need in any group to have boundaries around the group that are solidified by being different than all the groups that you're comparing yourself to.
Yeah.
And so that's somewhat functional. That's part of the appeal of being in a group. The problem is that when we start pushing out even further and further to the point where the distinctiveness then becomes too much of a focus of the group's identity, where it's too hard for the interaction to happen between groups. Yeah. And it's only when it becomes so distinct that it becomes a point of conflict that it's a problem. Because we could have distinctiveness that's not a conflict.
Yes, or that's not that extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be a variety of reasons why not. I mean, I'm trying to think of,
complementary. Could be that it's like we recognize, look, we're the team that embraces like taking risks and being adventurous.
Yeah.
But we recognize the team that basically keeps everything organized and running. We recognize that value.
Yeah.
It's just we don't find that value as important as being adventurous.
Yeah. And so the group is prevented from becoming extreme because they don't have to be.
Right.
They don't have to set themselves up as it's us against the world, kind of. We're the only ones upholding this value in the company.
Right. I think that, to some degree, it's whether or not it's complementary and you do see value in what the other group provides, but you just happen to value this other thing more. This other thing happens to be more defining.
Yeah.
But also, I think that to some degree, the extent to which the group is choosing its distinctiveness based on what the other groups don't have.
Yeah.
Now you're putting each other at opposites.
Yeah.
So,
makes sense.
If I am in a group and we choose to be the nerds, like if we're nerds because we're just nerds, because we just like learning things, that's one reason to be a nerd group. But if we're nerds because this other group we want to be better than, and maybe they just don't have the credentials or aren't showing that interest. And so we start defining ourselves against them as nerds versus not nerds.
Yeah.
Now you start to get to extremes. Because then they're like, we're the fun group. Yeah, you're the nerds, but we're the fun group.